Welcome back to Daybreak. Now, a mother tongue policy is designed to root education in a child's first language. But that answer has been officially rescinded, that the federal government has directed teachers across the country to prioritize English as the primary medium of instruction, cancelling the national policy that mandated the use of indigenous languages in schools. The move, announced by the Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, at the British Council's Language in Education conference here in Abuja, has one clear goal: to improve learning outcomes and ensure uniformity in classrooms nationwide. But this radical shift raises urgent questions. Is this a pragmatic masterstroke, a way to streamline education and give every child a common tool for success? Or is it a fundamental miscalculation that trades our rich linguistic heritage for a narrow idea of uniformity? To help us unpack this, we are joined via Zoom in the studio by Jamila Dahiru, a passionate educational enthusiast and the former commissioner of the Bauchi Education Ministry in Bauchi State. Hello, welcome to Daybreak.
Hello, good morning. Thank you.
Good morning, Jamila Dahiru. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Good morning. All right, let's look at the mother tongue policy, and we know that in 2022, the federal government mandated the national language policy. At that point, can you give us? Let's go back a little bit. What were the government's goals when they introduced the mother tongue instruction?
Okay, so thank you very much. Simple, it's also to improve learning outcome. That's the goal. Because at the time there were research done, and the learning outcomes were actually quite poor. And then comparison were made with countries that are using mother tongue or their national language, so to say, or what we call the lingua franca, to teach in their various schools. And we found that this has improved in terms of their retention, their learning outcomes, innovation, creativity, and so on and so forth. Nigeria at the time also conducted a research and found that a lot of time you find very curious students, very bright students, and because they are being taught in languages that they do not understand, probably it takes them more time to assimilate the language before they will even begin to also express themselves or come up with something meaningful for themselves and the society. It was introduced just as this new move to improve learning outcome. But then, as it is mentioned, probably a new research was conducted, and the ministry find it amazing that even though there was this shift or this new policy for mother tongue language, it has not improved learning outcome, and so probably that's why the new policy, or let's say the drop of that policy. However, even if you look at the reality on ground, at the time that we introduced the mother tongue, it was not very clear that all states actually were using mother tongue to teach. It has been emphasized that we should adopt the national language. Our national language has always been English. And so it is what we use in teaching in our various schools. But because we don't want our own culture, our languages to also go extinct, that's why the emphasis on local language. So you go to the south, you go to the east, you go to the north, you find that languages such as Yoruba, Hausa, Igbo are being taught in various schools. So it wasn't that, okay, schools were using local language to teach, but rather they are using local language, or let's say mother tongue language, to expatiate, to explain. I don't think it was 100% adoption of that policy since when it was introduced in 2022. 2022. So it's amazing to now hear the fact that some states, even though we have cement of using mother tongue as its policy. Yes, of course, federal government have the right to introduce new policies. State governments also can introduce policies that will make their own unique situation better. But I've not seen any state that use mother tongue as a method of teaching and learning 100% in Nigeria. So that's why the question. Thank you.
Now, in your own viewpoint as an educationist, do you think the mother tongue policy will improve learning outcomes and academic performance in Nigerian schools? Why or why not? Because there is a lot of debates right now surrounding this policy, the job or not.
Of course, when we look at the issue of uniformity, when we look at the issue of assimilation, when we look at the issue of learning outcome, there are more factors to it than mother tongue. So the introduction of mother tongue was not to replace English at all. It was just so that when a teacher is teaching, he can use the language of the language best understood by the students or pupils to explain terms, to explain processes, to explain systems, to explain issues. And so, yes, of course, if that is the motive and that is the objective, I believe it should, in a way, enhance understanding. It will enhance learning outcome because a student will now understand, even if he cannot explain in the language of lingua franca English, at least in his or her mother tongue, should be able to explain terms and issues. But then, in terms of uniformity, of course, Nigeria is a diverse country. We have different types of different languages across the country. It's quite difficult to say that we're using mother tongue as a language of learning or teaching, because in one state you find out that you have maybe, let's say, more than 30 or 40 languages. So what happened to the other languages? Do we also produce learning and teaching materials in their languages? So the first.
All right. Now, looking at, you being former commissioner of
Or
education,
teaching.
and,
Hello?
according to report, yeah, can you hear us?
Yes,
All right.
I can hear you now.
Looking at reports that have been put out that students in mother tongue instruction zones performed worse in national exams like WAEC, NECO, and JAM, as claimed. What might be driving that underperformance? And is the language of instruction the issue per se, or other structural issues?
Yeah, so this is a data we cannot argue with, but then we also need to look at other factors. Like I said, teaching in a mother tongue or uniform language might be one factor that can actually increase or also impact or learning outcome. But there are other factors. For instance, learning infrastructure, even the human resource themselves, we need to train, retrain them. And then ensuring that we are adopting the national curriculum and so on. When was the last time that Nigeria also reviewed the national curriculum? And today we are having a new curriculum. So these are also all factors embedded in why we are having poor learning outcome, especially when it comes to national exams. But however, I think there is also a mismatch in what we are putting out there to say, okay, the states that are teaching with mother tongue are performing poorly, because in Nigeria, which states are teaching in mother tongue? Like I emphasize, these states are not teaching entirely with mother tongue. You will find that they are teaching in English, however, probably expatiating, explaining using mother tongue, the language that majority of the class do understand. Because when we say mother tongue, it means you teach a TV boy or a Igala boy, or for instance, Hausa or a Fulani boy using his or her mother tongue. But then this is not the case. For instance, in the north, we are using Hausa, and Hausa is not the mother tongue. It's just a general language that majority of the people in Hausa use this. So we now conclude that, okay, because we are teaching in Hausa, we are teaching these children in their mother tongue. These are the questions that we are raising. However, other factors do also contribute. Of course, when there is no uniformity, like the Honorable Minister mentioned, there's a lot of problem in terms of which side or which section or which region of the country is doing what and what other region is doing what. We've been to many, many parts of these countries and we have seen what they put in place. What I think we should be advocating is putting the right resources, the right systems in place. What you have in the South, in the North, what they're doing in terms of policy to enhance their education should be adopted in the other states that are not performing. I think that should be the case. Not that we should emphasize on the reason being usage of mother tongue in teaching or in learning. I don't think it's the 100% reason why we are having low results or low performance in external exams. Thank you.
Jamila Dahiru, thank you very much for sharing your insight with us on this discussion this morning on Daybreak.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.